Hello dear viewers, myself Nasir and you're watching Mr.Zoologist YouTube channel. Today we are going to discuss about classification and aims of classification. What is classification? It means to say if we classify organisms into groups and subgroups on the basis of similarities and differences, that is classification. There is a large collection of very dissimilar forms of organisms found on the earth, means to say there are huge varieties of organisms, over 1.5 million types of animals and zero point 0.5 million types of plants are known to biologists, and these are only a small percentage of the total types estimated to be found on the earth. Means to say there exist a huge amount of the animals, but that are to be discovered now. They range in complexity from a small and simple bacteria to large and complex human beings. Some of them live in sea, some on land, some walk, others fly, and still others are stationary. Means to say their mode of locomotion, their mode of living, their characteristics might be different from one another. So these characteristics distinguish them into different groups and subgroups on the basis of similarities and dissimilarities. Each has its own way of living, getting food, avoiding unfavorable conditions, finding a place to live, and reproducing its kinds. Means to say there all these parts or characteristics are distinguishing. To study such a large collection, biologists classify organisms into groups and subgroups, and this requires some system. Means to say, you might have a proper method for classifying organisms into groups and subgroups. Biological classification is a method by which biologists divide organisms into groups and subgroups. If we talk about aims of classification, the branch of biology which deals with the classification is called taxonomy. Taxonomy is ladder. So and branch which deals with the classification and also traces of evolutionary history of organisms is known as systematics. Systematics tells about the sequence or the pattern or the pedigree of a particular organism with whom they are related to other organisms of the same kind. What are the main aims of both these branches? To determine or find out similarities and differences among individuals, to find out evolutionary relationship among the individuals, means to say in a phyletic lineage or in the life tree, at which point they are associated with each other with respect to their parents. So that is the are the that these are the objectives or aims of the classification we have discussed. Now we are going to talk about the basis of classification, the base, the ground reality. In actual, classification is based on relationship amongst organisms, and such relationship is got through similarities in characteristics. Means to say, if some characters are same, they will be placed in that common group. If characteristics are different from each other, they will not be placed in that group. They will be kept in separate groups. These similarities suggest that all organisms in one group are related to one another at some point in their evolutionary histories. Means to say, in their pedigree, they are in the ancient times related to each other. Their parents might be relative of each other. However, some organisms are more closely related to one another than the other. For example, sparrows are more closely related to pigeons than to insects. It means that the former to have common evolutionary histories, means to say their parents are more closer to each other of sparrows and pigeons than that of insects. So, evolutionary relationship provides important information for the classification. When biologists classify the organisms into groups and subgroups, the similarities are seen in internal and external structures and stages of development. Any of these similarities can be the basis of the classification of the organisms. Modern genetics provide another type of information for the taxonomy. The similarities and differences seen in the DNA of two studied organisms. Means to say, if they have the same genetic makeup genotype, then this information can be used to put them in the same group. And if there are differences in the structure and functions of these organisms, then they will be kept in separate or different groups. And if we talk about taxonomic hierarchy, the groups into which organisms are classified are known as taxonomic categories or taxa. Singular is taxon. The taxa form a ladder that is called taxonomic hierarchy. All organisms are divided into five kingdoms. So, kingdom is the largest taxon. On the basis of similarities, each kingdom is further divided into smaller taxa in the following ways. Like the taller one is a domain, and that is phylum. A phylum is a group of related classes. Class is a group of related orders. Order is a group of related families. A family is a group of related genera, and a genus is a group of related species. A species consists of similar organisms. So, means to say a species will be a group of organisms that are similar. So, these are the characteristics or taxonomic hierarchy that forms a ladder. Phylum is the topmost, then lower is class, then lower is order, lower is family, family is lower is genus, and the lowermost is species. If we give an example of classification is that of human classification, that is a ladder like classification. Topmost domain means to say eukaryote. It has a true nucleus, nuclear membrane, and next down is smallest is kingdom, smaller is kingdom. Kingdom is of animalia, phylum is of chordata, class is of mammalia, order is of primates, families of hominidae, genus is homo, and species is sapiens. So scientific name of humans is homo sapiens. That is the classification of human. And next is species, basic unit of classification. Species is the lowest and the lowest most rank in the taxonomy. We can define species as a group of similar species. Means to say humans are crossbred with the humans, so that the offsprings produced will be of fertile. So a species is a group of similar species interbreeding freely with each other and can produce fertile offspring. Fertile offspring means to say it has ability to produce its next generations like its own. If two different species are fertilized, the offspring will not be fertile. It means to say that it will not be able to produce its offsprings as it will contain structures that will be minimal, but production of sperms and gametes will not be feasible in them. For example, if donkey and horse are crossed, mule will be produced, which is infertile. Means mule cannot produce its offsprings. It has its reproductive structures, but these reproductive structures are not of that kind that can produce sperms or eggs.